Hey, what's up? For real, I'm gonna stop gatekeeping on how to do the best airbrushing in Photoshop. I am here with my friend Shivani. She's off screen, but she's with us in spirit. And I just want to say that you can like do these like airbrush add-ons and extensions into the apps and everything, but it's never as good as if you do it manually. So I have the way to do that, and I'm gonna show you right now. And I'm gonna start with a like basic version, and then I'm gonna show you like a little bit more crazy if you want to spend more time on it. All right, so here's a photo I took on camera flash. I mean, he looks incredible, and the only thing I'm gonna do is just like, there's a bit of shine. So, you know, cameras are not as good as the human eye, so they add detail and they add things that aren't really there to try to compensate since they're not as good as the human eye. And so if you were to look at Tony, my buddy here, I gotta ask him if it's cool if he's on this, but anyways, he's not this shiny. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna Command J, I'm gonna make a new layer. Go to my filters, I'm gonna go blur, I'm gonna go Gaussian blur. I'm gonna add a blur, so like around 15 to 20 is a sweet spot, and then advanced, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Last time I did it was 16.2, let's roll with that. So when you blur things, they get too smooth, right? If we go in super tight. So that doesn't look like a real photo. So what we gotta do is we also gotta add a little noise to it. So we're gonna add some noise. I got it. Last time I did 1.2, that looks pretty darn good. So now it looks like kind of some simulated grain that would happen when you take the photo, because we're gonna expose this through a mask. So 1.2, let's roll with that. I wouldn't go below, I mean, that's really the sweet spot. I mean, depending on how big your photo is, it could be a little bit more, a little bit less, but you basically just want it to look similar to like natural grain that would happen in a photo. So we're gonna say, okay. So we're gonna create a mask to start exposing this layer by hitting our little mask thingy-madoogie, and then we wanna go Command I, so we're just gonna flop our mask. So now we got it fully masked out. So now we're just gonna take a brush, boom, B. We need it to be not too hard because we want it to blend in. And then we gotta make sure our opacity is right. I wouldn't go higher than like 22. If you get over 22, it's gonna start feel heavy-handed. If you get below, I would say like 18, 17, it's gonna be hard to see it. So I think, you know, somewhere in there like 19, 20 range is gonna really be the sweet spot. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna punch in. We're gonna make sure we're having our white selected. We can go back and forth. We gotta make sure the mask is selected, otherwise you're gonna paint on the photo itself. We can go hit X to go back and forth. So if it's white, it's gonna add it. If it's black, it's gonna take it away. And so like, for example, I'm just gonna do something that we wouldn't do. If we accidentally had our opacity like cranked and we did like this and we're like, oh no, that is not it. We can always hit X, go back to black, and then paint back over that, because then we're just gonna add that back. So, but anyways, we're gonna go to our opacity of like I said, 19, 20, something like that. We're gonna go to our white, and then we're just gonna kind of paint it on. It's subtle stuff, you know, we're not trying to like do anything crazy. Places like the tip of the nose are always classic to have a little shine. Just kind of clicking around. Sorry to zoom in on you like this, Tony. I chose like my homie who's like super good looking dude because, you know, we all know he's a good looking dude. When you zoom in on anybody, no matter who it is, it gets intense. So anyways, you know what I'm saying. So that's just like a super little quick banger I did there. But you can already see like the photo still looks super natural, right? And all we did was, you know, knocked it down a bit. In my opinion, it looks a lot better. And like if you had like a blemish, you know, you can really, even though we're at the 19 opacity, let's just say that this little spot here was a blemish. You can, I mean, obviously you should probably use a spot tool for that, but you can just like bang that thing through there. So like you can do like, you know, on blemishes and stuff, you might like hit it a little bit harder. But yeah, that's basically it, and it's gonna be way nicer than, come on, Why's my bracket not working? Come on, bracket, make my brush bigger. Is that bracket not want to work? It makes it smaller, but my right bracket's not working. That's all good. We can do it manually. What was that saying? Yeah, it's just gonna look way better than if you just like throw a thing on there, like a filter or something like that. You just can't dial it into the same thing. So if you're just like posting something super quick, don't worry about taking this much time. But if you're like actually trying to make like a nice picture, like that you're gonna like frame, or like it's like art, you're like working with some art, then do take the time to like do it manually. Okay, so you want to take it a step further, then you can do this. We're gonna go back, we're gonna turn it off. We're gonna Command J again, and we're gonna add our Gaussian blur again. What I'm gonna show you is when you go up a little on the higher side, the highlights even get more kind of blurry, right? When you go on the lower side, they get not as blurry, right? So what you can do if you're trying to go like super dialed in is like, let's say I decide, and I wouldn't necessarily decide this because I like the on-camera flash look, but let's say I did decide that I wanted the brow to be, because here with this mask, I can never get the brow like totally because I only did a little bit. But if I wanted to really knock that brow off, I could go to my Gaussian blur and I could crank it up to like, let's say like 24 or something like that. Still gotta add our noise. Always add the noise, don't forget that. So on this one, we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna Command I, but let's say that we wanna we'll go a little bit heavier handed. Let's say we wanted to knock this brow down a bit. I kind of like to like click around a lot more than just like hold my mouse down. But see, that's going to be more than that. Even if that highlight's still there. I wouldn't necessarily do that. I'm just using this for example purpose because sometimes you would want to do that. But let's say in this same example that you wanted to hit the chin a little bit, but since it didn't have that heavy highlight, you don't want it to be as intense. So this guy right here is our what is called heavy blur, and then we're going to do another one, and we're going to call this one light blur. So then we do the same thing, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, but we don't do it nearly as heavy. Like we do it something like 7, whatever. You have to eyeball it. Then we do the same thing, filter, noise, add our mask, invert our mask, and then we hit our B for brush, and then we start painting the chin some, right? So this is going to preserve a little bit more of the light detail. And so basically this technique of having multiple airbrush layers, I usually actually call this airbrush, and I usually don't do multiple. I usually just do one that's like 16 to 20 blur depending on the image. But this is how I would do like when I do these more dialed in ones, which is rare, but I do sometimes. And so then bam, I got my airbrush layer that I can work with and continue to dial this in. And the one last tip I'll give you before I sign off is that airbrushing should be like kind of the last thing you do, because for example, that we didn't do spot heal first, right? Then our airbrush layer would have the imperfections that we didn't fix. So when we expose them to the airbrush, we're exposing the imperfections we didn't fix. So if you're gonna do like a spot heal or some color correction, for example, let's say we did color now on this layer by going to like a camera raw filter, and we decided, oh, we're gonna make this thing warmer, you know what I'm saying? So we're just gonna, like, obviously that looks like trash, but let's just say we did that. And then our airbrush layer, look at our airbrush layer now, is exposing that cool tones that we started off with. So that's not gonna work. So we need to go ahead and do a lot of the color correction, spot healing, basically composition, cropping, all that stuff needs to happen before the airbrush, because the airbrush really needs to be just the very last thing. But I mean, I just spent 2 seconds on that. I mean, it's definitely, in my opinion, a better image, and it's more reflective of reality. For me, Airbrush isn't about like taking something and making it like unrealistic. It's about making it more realistic, because the camera cannot make real. Like, it's great, even the best cameras in the world can't make real. So we're just like trying to get back to reality. We're not trying to like trick nobody or something like that. I mean, if you're into that, cool, do that. But me personally, what I'm trying to do is, when Tony walked in today and he looked more like this than he looked like this. And so, you know what I'm saying. Anyways, that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for joining us, Shivani. Talk to you guys later.